bringing Walker Miller back into the conversation, something you didn't think you would have to do. No offense to Walker. He's a guy that plays extremely hard. He's a guy that's going to work his tail off, but he's not a guy that you want playing ACC games, let alone against Virginia, Virginia Tech, Florida State, Duke, those types of opponents down the stretch. And now because of this, that may have to become an option.
Yeah, I'm not as concerned about Carolina's rebounding because the amount of emphasis that Roy Williams and the staff puts on it, I don't see them dipping. I do wonder what it does for Carolina on the offensive end. I think defensively, I think we all know in the back of our heads they would match up better defensively if they played with a smaller lineup, but you're not going to do that. Offensively, though, I feel like if this was a more veteran team, it wouldn't hurt them. But you're still looking at having 2, possibly 3 freshman guards in the starting lineup. And look, I know Kerwin Walton and Caleb Love looked phenomenal at Duke the other night, but that was, in the setting of the greatest rivalry in sports. That's a possibility that those guys could, reach the moment and play at a high level. We've also seen those guys look absolutely lost and overmatched in ACC play on the offensive end. So I think that's where Carolina will be more hurt by this if, you don't have Armando Bacot and Daron Sharp moving forward, because with those 2 guys, you can put the ball and they can go get you a bucket. Now that's gone, and you're not as convinced this year with Garrison Brooks you can get consistent offense from him like you were able to a year ago. So I think that's where I'm at, is that I think Carolina will still be okay rebounding the ball, and I think they'll still defend probably even better than what they're defending now. I wonder how it affects them offensively, and that's not a good thing after them scoring 91 points the other night and really looking like a Carolina offense of old. So one last thing on this topic before we move on to a little bit more of a lighter topic. Quick yes or no, does this derail Carolina's season?
I'm going to go with no, and I do. I think that there are some guys on this team that are going to step up. You're going to see some of these senior leaders step up. And one last thing that I want to say on this that's separate from this question is we have sat here and talked about this now for, I don't know where we're at in the podcast, but I would have to guess 25, almost 30 minutes, maybe a little bit more than that. This is, it's a mistake. It's college kids doing what normal college kids would do in a normal situation. This is not something to butcher these kids over. This is not something to berate them over. This is not something to send them messages on social media over. They made a mistake. We have all made our fair share of mistakes. I know I've made them. I'm probably still going to make some because I'm an idiot. I'm not going to lie to you.
I agree with that.
The fight is gold on the tree, and neither are you. That's why we're doing this podcast together. But I'm telling you, you can't throw these guys out the window. You can't berate these guys. You can't say, look, this is the end. Forget them. They're not part of the Carolina family, whatever. This is a mistake that you can rally around and grow stronger, like I talked about, for the team in general, but this is also for the Carolina family. Guys are going to make mistakes in a family. It's how does that family rally around and try to help these guys come back from these mistakes? I think that's the biggest thing that we've got to realize is that these guys are going to be a part of this team. Neither one of these guys, from what we've been talking about throughout the season, we think are going to move on and go to the NBA after this season. They will be back as a part of this team at some point, whether it's this year, whether it's next year, whenever they come back to this team, they will be back. And this is not something that we should let stain their legacy at Carolina. These guys threw a party during COVID. These guys did not do something that was over the line to the extent of being, potentially arrested, anything like that. This is a mistake that is going to be worth coming back from. Remember, Roy Williams, I'm not throwing situations under the bus, but you look at some of the situations that Roy Williams has dealt with. Not going to delve into them, but what we've seen with Ty Lawson, what we've seen with P.J. Harrison, this is not a guy that's going to give up on these young men. He's going to find a way to help them get through this and learn from their mistakes. And I hope that a lot of the people in the Carolina fan base do the same thing. It's a mistake, and these guys will learn.
I'm going to echo everything that you just said. I know I've came across a little harsh, a little angry, and I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty mad at the decision those guys made. But like you said, you've screwed up. I've screwed up. We're going to screw up in the future. We've just got to, be willing to accept these guys and understand that they will make this right when the time comes for them to make it right. So with that, we'll move on to a lighter topic, still a little emotional topic to talk about here on the Carolina or on a Carolina basketball podcast like our own. You mentioned the Carolina family. That family was created and built by legendary head coach Dean Smith. And yesterday we reached 6 years of his passing. I can't believe that he's already been gone 6 years. And yesterday was Super Bowl Sunday. It were the day after coming off the emotional win over Duke. And I still found myself sitting here. We were hanging out, watching the Super Bowl and all that, still thinking about the impact he has on the Carolina basketball program, the impact he has on, my life, potentially your life. And I wonder how he would handle what we're going through right now with Carolina basketball. If he was having, a guy throw a party with a global pandemic going around. But then you look at the bigger things that this world's going through, how he would handle, playing through COVID-19. Would he have been willing to play, or like Coach K had his reservations? And then you think about the racial stuff that we're still going through as a country. We all know he is an integral part of why Chapel Hill no longer has a race barrier when he brought Charlie Scott to campus and took him to church. And then from there is the main reason why we broke the racial barrier in the South. And it's just amazing that a man that's been gone now 6 years still has a profound impact on the game of basketball, but more importantly, the game of life.
Yeah, I mean, it's that was just eloquently put. You're right. It is really, really unbelievable to sit here and think that it's been 6 years. I remember getting a notification like it was yesterday. Of his passing, and it was stunning. I'm really glad though that he did not have to go through and deal with this with what he was dealing with at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would have just been hell on him. So but I think that when you look back on his legacy, and this is why it's a lighter topic. Of course, whenever anybody passes, it's always seen as a dark topic. But I think it's so great that every time that we hit the anniversary, every time that we hit his birthday, there are always people that take to social media and want to give their favorite Dean Smith moments. And it's just, that's what you should want when it comes to the passing of someone after the first, is just the memories of that person, what they meant to you. And yeah, this is the thing that we have to remember. You can probably tell our ages, even if, just by the voices, just by the name of the podcast, the Roy's Voice podcast.
Yeah. We
grew up in the Roy Williams era. We did not see Dean Smith play when we had memory of it. That didn't happen. We didn't grow up with Dean Smith. So to us, Roy means about as much as just about anybody. Pretty much right up there with family. We love and respect everything about Roy Williams. And that's how a lot of people felt about Dean Smith. And the thing to remember, even if you're a Tar Heel fan that's around the same age as we are, or even younger, there is no Roy Williams without Dean Smith. There is no Matt Doherty without Dean Smith. There is no Eddie Fogler without Dean Smith. There's so many different guys were impacted by this one man, that so many different things for this university. And, you talked about his impact, off the court with Charlie Justice. That was huge. Everybody remembers the impact that he had on the court, everything that he did for Carolina, building this program into what it became. But I think that he would be one of the frontline leaders to answer that question of what would he do during this time when it comes to the racial injustice that we saw. Dean Smith would have been a guy that would have been holding a sign, would have been walking arm in arm with his players down the street, leading the fight. Dean Smith would have been a guy that this year probably would have been wearing, I don't know if he would have been quite the fashion guy that Roy is with the shoes, but may have had a message on his shoes throughout the season. That was just the type of person that Dean Smith was. He wanted to not only make things better at Carolina for himself and have a fun time doing it. The main thing that he wanted to do was to make the Carolina experience great for every player, every fan, anyone who cared about the Carolina program, and that was what was so special about him. And that's why I think when we look at who we want as the next head coach of the Tar Heels, we want somebody that comes from Roy Williams' tree, preferably even a guy that played at the university, in his playing career, because you just understand that Roy has carried over a lot of the same things that Dean did, and you feel like one of those guys, Hubert Davis, Sean May, whoever it is going to do the same. That's why it means so much to us, because of the legacy that this man built. And, I think, it's amazing, as we keep getting, away from it. People always say, I'm waiting for that moment where eventually I'm not going to be able to remember anything about this person, about a family member, about something like that. I know for me, it's only been a year since my grandfather passed. I remember, tons of memories, like it was just yesterday. And it's basically the same thing with Dean Smith. And it'll be the same way for us with Roy Williams. When that time comes around, these types of people that make huge impacts on your life will have those types of impacts on you for the rest of your life going forward. It's never going to fade, and that's the great part about Dean Smith.
Yeah, I really, you said what I said was eloquent, and I agree with yours. Everything you said, very beautiful, and it's just the way people can impact lives when they're not here. That's, Kobe Bryant talked about it. That's the true impact of greatness, and now he's gone. And we now, and he was right. The fact that, that's true greatness when you're impacting lives when you're not here. And that's what Dean Smith is still doing to this day. That's going to wrap it up for what's been a very emotional, a very heartfelt, a very honest edition of the podcast with Carolina's game against Miami being postponed due to concerns around COVID-19. Before we let you go, talk about the website, HeelToughBlog.com. We have you covered on there for everything following the postponement of tonight's game. You can go on there, read my article about what it means for Carolina moving forward. You can also find out about why Caleb Love was named the ACC Freshman of the Week. It was pretty much an easy choice after his performance at Duke, but go and read that. Also read about his performance in Duke, because I put it in perspective. He did a lot of first for a Tar Heel in Cameron Indoor Stadium. You can find all that great content on the HeelToughBlog.com. On the football side of things, we're in the offseason, but we'll be getting you ready for the NFL draft. So Anthony's going to keep you up to date on everything around Carolina football. And last, we encourage you guys to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. We're also on every major podcasting platform, most notably Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, TuneIn, Google Podcasts. Give us a like. Give us a review. You guys. We want you guys to subscribe so we get every podcast in your podcast feed. Well, with that, I want to thank Anthony for taking some time out of us Monday night, talk a little Carolina basketball. We want to thank you guys for listening. And as always, go Tar Heels.